to JohnRayner.tv. In this episode, I want to ask you the question, are you telling stories? Are you telling stories when you communicate? It's obviously a well-known fact that the most powerful form of communication is visual, when we paint on the canvas of people's minds. I like what one great author wrote a long time ago. He said, my tongue is like the paintbrush of a skillful artist. In other words, he paints pictures and tells stories on the canvas of people's minds to get his message across. If you look back in history, about 2,000 years ago, with a spiritual leader, some call the Christ, some call Yeshua HaMashiach, some call Jesus Christ, he communicated to thousands and thousands of people, never wrote a book, never wrote a song, but still today that person's words or analogies and stories are still affecting people's lives. In fact, one of his followers said this of him, said that he only spoke publicly in the form of stories, analogies, examples, basically painting on the canvas of people's minds. One of my favorite movies, one of my top 3 movies, I've seen it too many times, is Braveheart with Mel Gibson, based on the true story of William Wallace, the Scottish politician, or some would call him the Scottish rebel, but he hated the tyranny of England against Scotland. And there's a great scene where the Scottish rebels, protesters, the Scottish rebels and protesters wanted to give up. But instead of him giving data and facts and information, he started to paint on the canvas of the men's minds. He talked about the past and the tyranny of the past. He talked about their tyrannical condition that they were in at that time frame, and then he painted a picture about the future and asked the question in picture form about how do these people see their children and their children's children, and he led them into battle. And then even more recently, a client of mine who's in the construction and engineering space for an international company, for his department he was managing, he needed approximately $2 million and needed to solicit that from the board of directors. He went into the boardroom with a PowerPoint presentation, was going through data and facts and information and graphs and charts, probably put most people to sleep. But then when that didn't work and he didn't raise the $2 million worth of funds required, it was for a technology system he wanted to implement into his department. He asked me to meet him for a lunch. We sat down, we turned the message on its head, and we started to use stories and analogies and examples and case studies. He went back to the boardroom table, no PowerPoint, just told the story, started to paint images and started to paint a story on the canvas of the director's minds. And then he actually solicited the funds, and second time fortunate, he gained the funds that were required. So really what I'm asking you today is, are you telling stories, or are you painting on the canvas of people's minds when you communicate? Hope this helps. See you on the next episode of JohnRayner.tv. Ciao.